All right. Will Colin Casey, founder of the Brotherhood of Vigilance. And I guess we got onto you because you did a podcast, American Vigilante. It was a BBC podcast. So I'm very interested in what you do. I know you've disguised your appearance, but walk us through how it began. What was the origins of this?
Well, Adam, I'd gotten out of the military and I was trying to kind of find my path in life. And I was one of those people that, I really didn't. I wasn't going to carry a gun again. I was just going to kind of live my life and be peaceful. And I was attacked. I was attacked by 3 guys walking down the street. I actually was working for a corporation and I was handling large amounts of money and I was going to go do a deposit. And we ended up having a serious altercation. I did take them all out. There was actually 2 police officers that were riding by on bicycles that saw the whole thing. And they just happened to sometimes go by where I worked. And so they knew who I was. And I went home that night.
Well, hold on. Let's just backtrack for 1 second. You said you took them all out?
Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there was 3 of them. One guy was leaning against the wall. 2 guys were standing out on the sidewalk. And whenever I was walking up, one of them asked me if I had a light. And I told him no. And after I told him no, I went to walk, and the guy that was standing in front of me kind of put his hand out on my chest, and he goes, "Well, we need your money." And the guy that was overleaning against the wall stepped out with a knife. There wasn't a whole lot of time to think about it, so I hit one guy in the face with the money bag and stomped the other guy's knee, and I ended up messing him up pretty bad. The guy that had the knife, I took the knife out of his hand. I had it up against his throat whenever the police officers came there. They all ended up going to the hospital. Broken knees, separated clavicles, multiple contusions and abrasions. And I realized that if they were going to attack somebody like me, that they'd attack somebody like my mom or my sister or your grandma or your daughter. And I kind of made a decision that if I wasn't going to be part of the problem, I could be part of the solution. And that's how it all started.
With his training, you should have realized that he was Lethal Weapon.
Oh, yeah. Thinking of Con Air.
Con Air, that's right.
So this inspired this notion, but what is the bulk of your work? Like, how does it apply? What's the application in the real world? What are some of the cases you've worked on?
My God, Adam, it's such a broad spectrum. The big thing that we really like to be noted for is our recovering of kidnapped children. We've provided closure to many families whenever the police have either been out of options or not had the opportunities that we have to be able to develop information. So we can aggressively pursue leads that law enforcement doesn't have the ability to do so.
Gina.
So in terms of your relationship or maybe lack thereof with law enforcement, do they butt up against you? Do they turn their head? Do they try and be a resource?
Well, Gina, we don't contact law enforcement whenever we go to work. First of all, broadsword and blanket, what we do is illegal. When you're developing leads, sometimes you have to color outside of the lines of the law. And whenever a child, I don't know if you've got kids or not, but a kid's kidnapped, taken away, you've got a maximum of 96 hours before you'll probably never see that kid again. And usually within 48 hours, they're already dead or they've already been raped, molested, whatever you want to say. So when we get contacted, we pursue leads aggressively in every way that we can. So law enforcement, they're human beings, right? They love us and they hate us. The ones that I've been in contact with, I've had some cops that I've had to be involved with on certain levels that that love us and what we do, but they can't sanction it, and
Right.
they'd have to arrest me the minute that they knew that I was doing something wrong.
How much?
And I know that.
How much of this goes on in this country versus abroad?
What do you mean this? You mean our work?
Yeah, your work. Like, let's say someone's been kidnapped. Is it heading into Mexico, heading into Haiti? Like, is it heading somewhere, or is there a lot of it domestically?
Well, I've never worked in Haiti. A lot of it domestically. I have worked outside of the country before. I've taken as many as 2 guys with me out of country on other jobs. We've never needed any more than 3 of us on any of those deals. The most men I've ever taken on one case was 6. My team's pretty versatile, and they're very good at what they do.
Do you get compensated for it?
Well, there's compensation financially, and then there's compensation morally, right? So compensation financially, probably what you're asking is probably less than 40% of the time we get financial compensation.
Wow.
I can tell you this, that we've done a lot more pro bono work than we've done paid work in the more than 2 decades that we've been doing this. And then a lot of times, even if we go into a place and there's exorbitant amounts of cash or something, we will even, instead of lining our pockets, which probably we're stupid for not doing, we will donate it to some person or place that's worthy, whether it's a widow of a military person that has kids, or whether it's somebody that's been hurt or injured in the past that needed some extra help, whether it be medical or mental or whatever. So we provide a charity service too.
Can you walk us through a specific case that may give us a better idea of how exactly all this works?
Well, yeah, I can. Do you want a vendetta case, or do you want a child recovery case, or do you want, what do you want, Adam?
I'm going vendetta.
We say vendetta.
Yeah.
Okay. Have you listened to my podcast at all?
No,
Say
but
yes. Say yes.
I mean, yes.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Believe me. All right. So, one of the episodes is labeled, Amanda, and her husband had went. They'd known each other for, forever. They finally got married. They knew each other at high school. Amanda went off into college, and then she came back, and he's just a blue collar worker. And they ended up getting married. And this kid, well, I can't say kid, this man, he had worked his butt off, and I mean hard, from the time he was probably 15 years old. And all he wanted to do was buy Amanda a really nice house and take her on a really nice honeymoon. And they were going to go down into Mexico. And on the second day there, she was kidnapped. And she was kidnapped because they were out. They weren't out partying. They were out being a couple in love. They weren't even hardly drinking. But she had been noticed a lot by the locals. She was just a beautiful girl that just attracts attention. And so some people came to their room pretending they were security. They ended up beating the hell out of him, taking her.
Come on, Brian. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay.
Oh, good. Brian is playing Amanda by Boston. Sorry, go ahead. Right when she's getting beaten and killed, Brian. Come on.
That's all right.
He's describing her beauty.
Have some couth. Sorry, go ahead.
When her husband shows up and gives you an ass whooping for it, it's not on me because I had nothing to do with it.
So I'm sorry. So she gets abducted and raped and killed or beaten?
No, she was just, not just, but she was abducted, and she was shot up with heroin, and she was being sold. She was being rented out daily. I can tell you this, after I recovered Amanda, this is something that's not in the podcast. When I got Amanda back, she had a sexually transmitted disease and 12 different semen samples inside of her.
Well, wow. But don't skip past the part where you were contacted or how you found out about this.
All right.
So they're going to Mexico. They're a young couple. They're in love. He's a hardworking guy. They're going to celebrate.
They're strolling around.
Right. Cartel guys, I'm guessing, get hold of her and basically turn her into a sex slave.
That's right. That's exactly right.
And
so her father
you get
is a very
contacted.
wealthy man.
Uh-huh.
And he was so angry. I mean, first instincts were to contact the FBI and everything else. And he had friends telling him that's going to take too long. So he started going through channels and contacting people. And finally somebody gave him my name and my number. So I contacted him and we talked. He flew to me and then he flew me straight down there. Forrest and I had just finished up another case.
What day is this in terms of her abduction? Like when you fly out there, how long has she been?
Okay. She'd only been abducted for, I think, 48 hours whenever we first got the call.
Mm-hmm. All right. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So anyway, I got down there and started looking to develop leads. And I found a very, very fine thread after days of being down there, and I was able to develop a lead, locate Amanda. And anyway, I got her out of there. She was actually with another girl that had just been picked up.
Where was she? Is this God? What's the Liam Neeson movie? Taken. Is this kind of that real life version of what we're talking about?
I'd say it's very much like that.
And so
yes.
The
only difference is that we've been doing this more than 20 years, and Liam made that like 4 years ago.
So she's where's the husband at this point?
He's in the hospital in the U.S.
Where he was attacked, or when she was abducted?
He was beaten so badly his skull was fractured. He had teeth knocked out. He was beaten severely. He had broken ribs and internal injuries. Her father flew him back up to the U.S.
And it was clear the Mexican authorities weren't going to do anything in this case?
I wasn't privy to that information, but I do know how Mexican authorities work, and I can honestly tell you that a blonde-haired woman with her man in Mexico, and she disappears. It's just another one of those things. It's an American that got drunk and was partying. So yeah, they don't pay a lot of attention to it.
You get a lead to where this safe house is, or wherever she's being kept, right?
Right.
How do you develop that lead? How's that work?
Jesse, he had remembered something about the guys, and in the podcast I don't even disclose all the information because
Jesse's the husband.
Yeah. The one thing about my work is that a lot of the people whose lives I affect negatively only see what you're seeing right now. So, they don't know who I am. They don't know what happened. They just know that some guy came in there and this shit happened and, what the hell, right? So I can't give you all the identifying features. In fact, in the podcast, I even misrepresented the feature that was the identifying thing that Jesse gave me. Mm-hmm. But for lack of a better thing, it was a tattoo. And I was able to finally locate the guy. All I did was I went back to the restaurants that they'd went to, and I went back to the dance club they'd been to, and I just sat there and waited and waited and waited because the only lead I had was, a brown guy with dark hair and this certain tattoo, and that's all I had, right? That was it. So I just had to sit there and wait, and finally it was a Saturday night, and he came walking in with his friends, and they were actually drugging another girl. So I caught him doing that, followed him back to their apartment. And then, I don't know if it was apartment. What do you want to call it? I don't know. Whatever the hell they call them down there. And I went inside after doing a little bit of surveillance because I never saw her. I never saw Amanda. I saw the other girl. But all the scenario was the same. The guy's ID fit. And so when I went in there, I ended up finding Amanda in the back room. And it's sad because one of the guys that was there right after they got back with the other girl went in to check on her. And in checking on her, he was gone about 25 minutes. So I'm sure you could put together what happened there while I was sitting outside trying to find out if she was in there or not.
Do you go in with your partner?
No, I went in. Well, let me see. Yeah, because Forrest was with me on that.
And what are you armed with?
I had a 10 millimeter handgun, and I had a knife, and I had an asp. That was all I had with me.
What was the third one?
Asp.
Oh,
An asp.
I don't know what that is.
Like a
It's
snake?
a retractable baton.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
it's one of those foldable.
The
Yeah.
telescopic. Or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah, telescopic. All right. And did you go in there guns blazing, or what was their reaction when you went in?
Well, one guy had left. He had left the room, so I knew there was only two in there. And one guy was back. So when I went in, there was only the guy that was right there with the girl that was on the couch they'd brought in. And so when I came in, I just took him out, and then the other guy came out. I took him out, and that's when I found Amanda. And then the third guy came back, and I had to shoot him. So
What?
I ended up carrying both the girls out of there and getting them down to the car that the guy had actually left in, and came back in and took them to the hospital. And then from there, notified her father, and he ended up arranging private medical care for him and getting them back to the U.S.
What did Amanda think when you walked in? I mean, obviously she didn't recognize
She
you.
was so shot up full of heroin, and she was in such bad shape. I mean, if I could describe the smell to you in that room, you'd throw up right now.
And how many?
It was.
Sorry, you said
Go ahead.
when you went to the discotheque or whatever, the dance club, you waited and waited and waited. How many days from when you got down there to when you recovered her? You think?
Let's see, it was the second day, third, I think it was the fifth or sixth day when I recovered her, if I remember right. No, It wasn't. It was longer than that.
Around a week-ish.
Yeah, a little bit more probably, because it was 2 days when I got notified, and then it took me about 3 to 4 days, I think, to find them.
Do they know who you are? Do you
yeah.
do you have contact with them, the victims, the husband, Amanda?
Yes. Amanda now has 5 children.
Wow.
Whoa.
And she's a very happy, proud mother. And, you know, I even heard somebody call her a rape victim one time, and she started tearing them up. She's like, I'm not a rape victim. She says, I'm a mom. She goes, that's just something that happened in my life. That doesn't define me.
Wow.
So she's a pretty incredible woman.
How rare is it to find these subjects alive? I mean, I imagine that's got to be rare.
Well, I think Amanda was bought as a resource. You know, I think that somebody probably kidnapped her and then sold her to these other people. But what ended up happening with that was when I came back to the U.S., Amanda's father was still very angry because he realized that the guys that did this weren't the guys that were pulling the strings.
kidnapping,
Right.
yeah.
So he was pretty pissed, and he started using his money and digging, and he developed some more information that found out that there was somebody bigger. So he ended up contacting me again and requested that I go down and give him peace.
Damn.
Did you do that?
Yes, sir, I did.
It's the Dark Knight, man.
was
He's the superhero we all need.
How do you? I mean, obviously, before you give someone peace or just a piece of your gun, you really want to confirm that, right? I mean, you want to check and double check, make sure you got the right
That's correct.
hombres,
You're
That
right?
guy's gonna be like, you got the wrong guy.
Yeah.
You got the wrong guy.
Yep.
Right.
You're very right. You're very right.
So that's got to be kind of a pretty good vetting process. How does that
Yeah.
work?
Well, like I told you, Amanda's father was wealthy and pissed off. So he did a lot of the groundwork before he even contacted me. He still didn't know exactly who the man was, but he knew where the house was, and he understood what he did. So he had spent a lot of time and a lot of resources developing that information. From there, I was able to figure out exactly who that person was. And then it still took me quite a while to be able to get close enough to him.
Do you, here's a more global question. We're just off of this Kyle Rittenhouse trial. He was called a vigilante. A lot of people were saying, well, hey, if the cops aren't going to do anything and people are going to burn down people's businesses, then at some point, people are going to take up arms and go there. I'm from LA. I remember we had the riots in 92, I guess, whatever, early 90s. I think it was 92. They were burning the place down. A Korean liquor store owners got up on the roof with a gun and said, no, we're not going to burn down my business. I know the cops are standing back, but somebody owns a business. So there's some law into their own hands. And I wonder, with sort of the defund the police movement, cops stepping back, certainly Mexico seems like one big pile of that. But here, is there going to be more of this, more people doing what you do, more Kyle Rittenhouse types? Is this a trend? I mean, you would, I'm from LA. I don't know any of these people, but is this something you feel like we're heading this direction?
That is such a hard question, Adam. It really is.
That's
the
what
reason
I'm
it's a
here
hard
for.
question is because people are as different as blades of grass. They really are. And what's happened is obviously, I mean, you see it, I see it, everybody sees it. People are just getting to the point, for a lack of a better thing, is they're just pissed off. They're really getting angry. And when people are scared, they get mad. They do. Look at those two people I don't even remember what state it was. They're an older couple, and somebody was like coming into their house and they picked up their guns, and I think they got put in jail for it. I don't remember anything about it. It was an older couple in I don't remember if it was Missouri or Arkansas or something, but it's just people, it's out of fear. It's like, I train dogs. Dogs bite more out of fear than for any other reason. People are the same way. When they get scared, I mean, I know this. I've got friends that live in LA. They live by you. I've got friends that live all over California.
So watch out.
And they're calling me, asking me to teach them how to use firearms and what they should buy, because they've never owned a gun in their life. They're in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and they're wanting me to come down and give them tactical training because they're terrified. And these are people that have never had guns in their life.
No, they just had that Ted Sarantos. You hear that story? You guys hear that story?
I don't know what that is.
Well, the guy runs Netflix.
Okay.
His wife is a black woman was the daughter of a famous producer, record producer.
Ariel Maynor.
Yeah, I would have to figure it out.
Jackie
Anyway,
Avant.
they're a couple. It's Ted Sarantos' in-laws, essentially.
Right.
Live in whatever estates in Bel Air, Beverly Hills, whatever. And a couple guys just rolled up into their house, a robbery, shot and killed
Jesus.
That's in the middle of Beverly Hills. Yeah. I mean, that stuff never went on. I was talking to a woman who showed me footage of her friend who lived in Hancock Park, was pushing her kid up the driveway, sun shining, middle of the day. A couple guys come running in, with the gate was closing. I mean, gated houses, Hancock Park, Beverly Hills. Shit's getting a little dicey out there. And people, just like that couple, look, when someone busts down the gate and the mob's coming down the street, they're going out front. I mean, they're going to get their AR and head out there. It cannot go any other way.
And that's got nothing to do with them being vigilantes. All they're doing is protecting their property.
Yes.
They're not going out and creating havoc and trying to do something redeemable. They're just trying to protect what's theirs. And that's what I mean. And they're doing it out of fear. They're terrified.
Yeah.
And I was floored at how many people were contacting me. Go ahead.
Well, you were talking, Adam, a little bit macro, and I have sort of a micro question for you. You said you have friends everywhere. It's like you have to be able to live your life a little bit, I would imagine. Do you feel like you have this double life, and how hard is that for you to sort of negotiate?
Well, I have lived a double life. You really hit the nail on the head there. I was married for a very long time, and my wife knew that I would go and recover kidnapped children, but she didn't realize what I did.
Right.
You know
what it
I
took
mean?
to get them.
Believe me, she had no clue. I'd be gone, and I'd come back with money and pay the bills, and I'd get called out on this. I'd come back, pay the bills, and she was a good wife and mom. She took care of the kids, kept the house clean, never had a problem, So when all this started coming to head, I kind of had to tell her, and we're not married anymore. But, my kids are old enough now, and they didn't know. My kids grew up knowing that every time my pager went off, I was going to pick up my gun and put it on and leave. And you want to know something that tears your heart out, it's your own kids coming up to you saying, Papa, be careful. It's a hard thing because they realize, and my son at 3.5 years old tells me, Papa, my pager went off, and all he said was, Papa, don't let the bad guys get you. That really hits you.
Yeah.
But the double life, yeah. I mean, I have a business and I have things that I do normally, but everything I have is so that I can walk away if I get called out. And everybody on the team is the same way. And we all have adaptable lives.
Well, sorry, I just wanted to know, besides the people you work with, is there anyone in your inner circle who knows everything?
Only the team knows everything.
Yeah.
And here, this will make you blow your mind. Everybody on the team doesn't know each other.
Oh, like independent contractors kind of.
Wow.
The rules of the team is that if you aren't going to go on the job, you don't get to know about the job. So it's an operational security thing. It's spokes in a wheel. Whatever area of the U.S. we're going to work in at that time, I'll contact team members closest to that area first. And if they are available and want to do it, then that's the way it goes.
Reservoir dogs.
But even if we get together, can't talk about anything somebody hasn't been on a job with you.
Right.
So even a lot of the team members right now that started hearing these stories, and this was sanctioned by the team, they voted that I could do this. They're like, oh crap, that was that job. Why do you even tell me about that? So yeah, there's a lot of ribbon going on right now.
We need a bat signal for this guy.
Well, Casey, I hope you can come back on and share more of these fascinating, harrowing stories with us. The podcast is American Vigilante. And I'll throw out your website and your Twitter, but it's not on the page. Casey, this has been really revealing, and I thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hey, I got one thing I'd just like to say. Forrest was on a different Mexican job with me, not this one. I was solo on this one. So,
understood.
Anyway, you guys have a good day.
Thank you for the correction.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, there you go. Now, look, it's like that couple in St. Louis. The news tore that couple apart.
They became a punchline.
And they're like, we want these guys arrested in the full extent of the law. It's like, what the fuck are you supposed to do when the mob is coming down the fucking street and the cops aren't coming? What would you like them to do, news outlets? I don't get, to me, it's not really the mob and it's not really them. It's the processing of it. Like people going, I don't know, do something else. It's like their group broke down a fence. They're heading up the street and the cops ain't coming. What shall we do? And they didn't shoot anybody. They're just like fucking one out there was like, you're not coming in. And I don't know if they wanted to come in, but they didn't come in.
Right.
We had one out here with, I think we had a DA whose husband went out when the mob showed up on the lawn.
Lacey.
Jackie Lacey's husband went out, just went, you're not coming in here. He didn't pistol whip anyone. He didn't fire the gun. He just went, you're not going. I don't know if you're planning on coming into my house and setting it on fire or not. We don't know. That's kind of the problem. There have been many examples of you guys doing this.
We'd like to encourage you to rethink
We're
that.
encouraging you not to do whatever it is you potentially could do. And if the cops are going to stand back, then you're going to get more of this. And then somehow we live in this world where it's like, well, the cops are going to stand back. We got more angry mobs, but we're somehow, all our anger and ire is focused at the people who are standing there with the gun. We have to prosecute them. It's like, no, you don't. You need a society where marauding hordes of fucking hooligans don't run around and threaten people and set things on fire. All right.
Of all the food you ever eat, this is some.
Blandino's, our sauce is redder than the competition.
All right. I still don't feel like we're capturing the bland part of the.
Blandino's, unscrew a good line and enjoy.
All right.
There we
Okay.
Inspired by the star quarterback of the New England Patriots, Mac Jones, Roni, and cheese.